All right, so I want to talk a little bit about trauma response and particular when I figured out what mine is. So, for those of you who have not heard this story, I'm going to tell it again because it's true and it really happened. It actually happened twice in two different instances. Um, the first one wasn't so bad. After I had gotten away from, and I mean gotten away from, um, one of my doozies. He did a lot. He did a number on me. He did some damage. But anyway, after I got away from him, I was shook up, and I didn't know that. I knew I was somewhat, but I didn't know how bad. And sometimes you never do until either somebody else explains it to you and you feel called out, or something happens and you get caught up in a moment of vulnerability or whatever, and you do some crazy shit, and then you realize how bad off you actually are. And that's the reality of it. The first thing I want to say about that is that you have to accept that you're in that kind of shape. Accept it in a very non self-judgmental kind of way, because we're so hard on ourselves about how we react to things and how we do things, and oh, I shouldn't feel that way, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't. That right there needs to stop, because that's not helping you. The more you tell yourself, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, I need to be doing better, I gotta act right for my kids, I gotta blah blah, you can still do all those things without tearing yourself apart over having a bad reaction over some shit that has traumatized you. So, but another video for another time. So, after I got away from him, I, like in the following months, I really couldn't tell you if this is like a month or two after, or if this was like a year after. I couldn't tell you. I might be able to find it in a message somewhere, like if I went and looked back far enough, but I don't really know. So I went to the grocery store, and I saw somebody who looked like him, and I froze for a second and I stared at him. It wasn't as bad though. I froze for a second, I stared at him, he just kind of smiled at me and continued looking at the ketchups or whatever. And he had his little shopping basket, and he just had the fitted t-shirt with, you know, the tattoos and the buzz cut, because that was the Navy area I was living in. And I studied him, and I studied him, and I studied him, and the moments just dragged on and dragged on. And I was looking at him so hard because I was trying to decide if the tattoos were right. And I thought, nah, the shoulders aren't right, he's not tall enough, blah, blah. And I was trying so hard to, like, what do you call it, rectify, or like reason with myself over this guy not being who I thought he was. And I was like, no, 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 it's not him, 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 it's not him. And I knew that, like, my eyes were looking at him, I was like, okay, it's not him. But it doesn't matter, because it once it's buried that deep, and which is just what they do, the narcissists especially will just bury themselves like a seed, you know, in your brain. And that no matter what I told myself, my heart was still racing. And I just felt my blood pumping through my throat, you know, like, and I kind of, like, you know, skedaddled off. The second time that this happened, I was in that same grocery store with Food Lion in Kempsville, in Virginia Beach, for anyone who knows what I'm talking about. I lived on South Parliament Drive. So, I had already gotten all my stuff, and I was standing in line, and there was a guy in front of me, and it was that guy. And I felt my heart racing. I felt my blood pumping through my body, and I started getting hot and anxious. And I was so, I guess I was like, you know, psychically screaming at him, you know. And he must have felt it, because people always feel when they're being stared at. And he turned around and looked right at me, looked me right in the eye, and he smiled. He did like the little brief smile you do for a stranger, and then went back to looking straight ahead. And when he turned and made eye contact with me without me saying anything to him, I thought I was gonna fucking explode. I thought I was gonna explode. And I didn't know if I was going to scream or shit or just start crying profusely or what. It was like everything was like happening at once inside me. I thought, I'm going to fucking die. And I took my buggy and just like went, fuck this. And I went down to the other end of the store where the wine bottles are. There's a wine aisle that used to be like adjacent to the bread or something like that, towards that on the right side back there by the produce. And I hid behind the wine, and hid. And I just kind of like peeked out, and I waited for him to finish buying his shit and leave the store before I went back up, before I collected myself and went back up there and got my own shit and left. And don't think for a second that after I got out the door and I scanned that parking lot for a fucking black Toyota Tundra. I scanned it like a sniper. But when that guy turned and looked at me, I knew it wasn't him. And in fact, I knew it was the same guy I had seen before that I was trying to tell myself, okay, it's not him. So it's like when I saw him, I thought, oh, that's not him. But it didn't matter, because even when I was standing in line behind him before he looked at me, I was still studying the upper arms, looking for the god-awful, ever-present tribal tattoos that they get. And I thought, no, his body structure's not the same. That's not him. He doesn't even wear those kind of clothes. That's not him. That's not him. It's just not. It's not. And it didn't matter. So, but I learned in that moment that my actual, when I'm really in it, my actual trauma response, or whatever, is flight. I get the hell out. I took off like a fucking bullet. I bolted. That was like, I took off like a rocket. And so mine's flight. And I haven't felt that way since then about anything or anybody. So I guess I don't know if I've made progress, or he's the only person that really did that kind of damage. Which it's that I had others that did some other shit, but he was top dog. The guy I'm thinking of, he was top dog. He took the gold medal for that. So, and no one else. I haven't let anybody else do that shit to me since then. So I haven't had that feeling since then. But that day in Food Lion, I swear to God. So there's an experiment that I would like to try for finding out what your trauma response is. This is one way to do it. This isn't really thorough, but this is just an idea. Hold on one second. I wonder if I can. Okay. This door is locked. What's your response? It's locked. Okay. That's one minor ass experiment that you can do. That's just a real quick little. There's other stuff that we could do to figure out other stuff and go deeper and shit, but that's a good one. That was a good one for me. And mine would still be flight. The first time somebody did that on me, it was still flight. There was a time when I worked, I had a job through a temp agency at a place that made credit cards. And there was a hurricane. This is still in Virginia. There was a hurricane coming through that time, and it was supposed to be kind of bad, and we were all stuck at work when it came through, because it showed up sooner than it was supposed to or whatever, and we were all there, and I was like, oh fuck, it's probably 4 in the afternoon, and there was this big storage room that was built Ford tough, and they huddled all of us. It was a huge room. There was plenty of room to move around and stuff, so we weren't crammed or whatever. But there was no air conditioner in there, so we had to turn on fans and stuff. And I was like, oh God, because I hate being hot as it is. I can't stand being hot. I hate that shit so bad. So I was already anxious. And we got in there, And this woman who was like some kind of assistant manager or something, I didn't trust her, and she did not have my respect because she had just been promoted to assistant manager, and she let that go to her head in ways I haven't seen in a long time. And so she showed her ass a lot, and I had zero respect for her, period. I'm not gonna lie. It's just, there's no other way to say that. She showed her ass, and I was like, she tried some shit with me one time, and I let her know real quick, don't fucking do that. I forgot what the fuck it was, but it was just something that she was trying to like micromanage or have my balls in a vice, and I was like, you're not gonna fucking do that. And I just, I let her know. So she kind of backed off after that, but I saw her do other stuff, and anyway, so I didn't trust this woman, period, just in general. And I just thought, this hurricane is going to come through. It could flood up here. It could, anything. If it starts flooding, there's no running from it. The water element is absolutely unconquerable. It's also the feminine divine, thank you very much, the waters of chaos. But another video for another time. But you just can't beat it. Water's going to break through everything. And I thought, if we get stuck up in here and it floods, I'm going to do what it takes to get out. So the thing is, we got in the big ass storage room, and it was like, it had like a huge garage door that would come down, like a big door. And she went over like some safety rules or whatever, and we got the fans turned on and everything, and everybody like sat down where they were going to be sitting, for like an indefinite amount of time, because we didn't know how long it was going to last. We were all like sitting on our little cliques, Well, she goes, okay, y'all, does anybody have to go to the bathroom before we do this? And everybody had already gone. And she was like, all right, I'm going to push this button. When this closes, that's it until the storm's over. And we were like, aight. And she pushed that button, and then when it started closing. And I knew I wasn't going to handle it well. I knew I wasn't going to handle it well. I contained myself really well. I didn't show too much. I probably showed about 10% of how fucking terrified I was. I probably showed about 10% of it. But I was not happy with what was going on, because she was in charge. And I just thought, fuck. And then the door was like coming down, and it was going to lock once it came down and everything else. And I don't like being locked in, which is weird because like I've never been locked in my childhood. It's not like I was put in a cage or whatever, so I don't know where that comes from. I don't know, but I don't like being locked in, or doors closing behind me that I can't come back through, or whatever. And that giant metal garage door came down, and I thought, fuck my life. How do I get through this mentally? How do I get even? So it came down, and it closed, and it locked. And we were only in there maybe half an hour, so it wasn't like even a big deal. And the storm passed, and it wasn't what everybody thought it was going to be, so it was no big deal. Everybody just she let us out, and we all went back to work. But in that moment, while we were in there, I just thought, son of a bitch. And I actually thought to myself that I'd be safer outside of there, outside of the building. I thought I'd be safer outside in the storm itself than I would be, just trying to drive home, than I would have been having been locked in to the thing, the storage thing. Because when everything locks and it's all bolted shut and we're all stuck together looking at each other, that's not safety to me. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know what happened to me in my childhood that I've suppressed and can't remember, but that's not safe to me, because I can't run, because my response is flight. You see what I mean? So it's weird the shit you learn about yourself. But I like, her calling the shots when I was in a moment of thinking I was going to save my own life. I can't. That's really horrible. I don't do well being micromanaged anyway, so, having somebody up my ass all the time, that's why people like me leave the workforce and like do their own thing and run their own businesses, because we can't fucking stand people pushing us around and treating us like we're just grunts in the army that are just there to be expendables. Like, that's bullshit. So people like me don't do well in environments like that because we don't listen to shit. And in that moment, being locked in was bad enough. I was locked in. I was away from my family members. I was with a bunch of people I didn't have anything to do with. There was no way to get out, and I was in the charge of somebody that I did not trust with anything, far let alone my physical safety or my life. And it's just one of those things. But I just figured I would tell that story. But when that gate started coming down, I thought, if I want to run, do I run now? Do I run now? What if I just ran now and just got in the car and drove home? Because I don't care about driving in a storm. I've driven in many a storm. Being in Virginia Beach for 17 years, I've driven through many hurricanes, and weird shit like that. That's not going to bother me. It's being locked in, and, so that's just, but the trauma response. Mine's flight. I want to run. But that's, there's all kinds of exercises you can do to figure that out. The locked door is one of my favorites. There's other stuff that you can't use that for, I don't think, because the new ones they've added to it is freeze and fawn. Well, freeze, yeah, but fawn is different because, like, if the door is locked, there's nobody to fawn to, you can't really fawn to the door, I guess. Like, and fawn means like start people pleasing or try to please that person in some way in order to gain their favor so that they'll quit abusing you or whatever, like to try to be nice to them and suck up to them or whatever. It's like that. But if it's a locked door, how do you do that? So the locked door thing is good, but it's not thorough. You see what I mean? So, but it's just my thoughts for the day. I just figured I would film that and let y'all in on what I was thinking about. But yeah, and there's ways that you can, there's things you can do in the moment to kind of come back down to earth, to get away from those feelings, and not escape them, not run from them and not deal with them kind of thing, but just to give yourself a break and bring yourself some relief from those feelings until you can kind of calm down and deal with it in a more non-judgmental, open, relaxed, and intuitive way. You know what I mean? So I'll probably do some videos on that as well, because I've had to do a lot of stuff like that. But anyway, I just figured I would do a video on that because it's an interesting topic and something I've been thinking about. So that's it for now. And thanks for listening. And let me know, if you want, you can let me know what your response type is in the comments, or you can message me. And if it's something you want to work on, we can totally do some exercises or whatever. I'm totally open to that. That would be cool. And anything to help you out, I'm interested in doing. So just let me know how you feel about that. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Bye.